people. If you don't know who you are and what situation you would come to the world to, I would always vote for a world where we have the option of a Bitcoin world. It was just a cascade of realizations of how Bitcoin is on so many levels interesting and valuable, also morally valuable for the world. For the first time in my life, I had the impression my work had some monetary fruits, just, you know, as another component to intention. It's like, are you believing to an illusion or not? How aware are you about the objective facts? Maybe you were tricked into something. People who are not spending their time with Bitcoin, that's where they are intellectually. They say, well, if more people use Bitcoin, the climate is gonna be fucked and the nature is gonna be destroyed and we need the energy for more important things, stuff like this. These are the points where we need to address the people if we want to talk about Bitcoin with the ones who are not already convinced of the idea.
Hi Marcel, how are you doing? Everything fine on your end?
Yeah, thanks Robin. Thanks for the invitation.
I'm used to saying on your end because usually I'm on a different side of a different country. But today we're actually at the Electric Love. I think most of my audience probably does not know what this is. It's a huge festival in Austria. 180,000 people come here to just celebrate music and dancing, I guess. And the two weirdos here are just talking about Bitcoin, seeing the Electric Love in the background. So thank you so much for 21 Bitcoin to invite us. And also thank you so much, Marcel, for coming, you as my neighbor, to Salzburg to record this podcast with me here.
Yeah, that's really funny that we live so close to each other right now, coincidentally, because I do my Erasmus in Vienna right now to study my master's in philosophy. And yeah, I was very surprised when you said, let's not meet in Vienna, but in Salzburg. And it's great to see this gigantic festival location right in front of our eyes. And I also wanted to appreciate that 21 Bitcoin just picked me up, did all the management to bring me here, and it was very helpful from them, and also from you to organize to get us all together.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, let's like I'm hyped to talk with you, to talk about Bitcoin philosophy and whatever else you have in mind to talk with me about.
Absolutely. I always start up with one thing, and this is to give the viewer a little bit of a background, who you are and why you're excited about Bitcoin.
All right. Yeah, is it like that's the question?
That's the question.
Yeah, I can just start shooting. Okay. Who am I? Like, I'm Marcel. I'm 28 years old right now. I have basically my main ground line is my studies in philosophy. After school, I started to study it. Didn't really know what to do and stick to philosophy, which started to inspire me a lot, gave me a lot of tools to think, to reflect on subjects. And while I was doing that, I also constantly tried to, I think, look for something new or engaging or world moving in my early 20s. And that's why I was always kind of on the watch out for innovation. And so that was like the inspiring factor and motivation which moved me throughout all the things I did. And one aspect of how to do it was working, freelancing, stuff like this while I was studying. So I did a lot of that. And in design areas, marketing, communication, philosophy helped me there, I would say, to, organize my thoughts, argue for them, basically say, why does it make sense to do a certain marketing strategy, a certain design, visual design. So yeah, I think to sum it up, I'm basically combining philosophy, Bitcoin, and design in like three columns, and right now I'm circling around those three topics since more than 5 years, and yeah, that's me. I as you know, like when we got to meet each other was in the time when we organized the Bitcoin block event, the first one in Munich. So that was a big event we organized, and since then I worked as a self-employed person in Germany, and found my way back to finish my master's in philosophy with the inspiration from Bitcoin and to write about it. And you ask what motivates me or inspires me to do Bitcoin, I think the baseline was very much a simple one. I didn't have a really, wealthy background with my parents. My father was an artist. My mom was a teacher. And so it was a bit tricky. And she wasn't a teacher who was employed by the government with a safe salary. She came from Turkey. And so I kind of had this whole struggle of money a long time. And when I turned 18, 19, I looked out for investment opportunities, and the bank kind of refused my curiosity on that when I went to a bank. And then they said, well, like with 100 euros, it doesn't make sense that we make a consultancy for you. So just go home, basically. So I was constantly looking for options. Bitcoin was the option with little money to invest in it. And then from there, I had kind of the moral principle to say, I don't want to invest in something I don't know about. So I started to also educate myself on it. And in 2020, 2021, it really started that I said, okay, I really now have to pay attention and to understand what Bitcoin is about. And it was just a cascade of realizations of how Bitcoin is on so many levels interesting and valuable, also morally valuable for the world. And we talked about the question earlier, like for all of the people, if you don't know who you are and what situation you would come to the world to, I would always vote for a world where we have the option of a Bitcoin world, where you can use Bitcoin as a opt-out or, we can talk about the details now, but I just want to say that's my storyline of how I got into Bitcoin.
I love that. And you're so humble, man. I think you founded the first supermarket store Bitcoin wise. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's an amazing thing that you started in Munich. It was called the Bitcoin block or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's awesome. There's like, you can go in a normal like mall and there's like one store. For how long was it? 2 weeks?
2 weeks. It was a pop-up event. I wanted to try it out, and exactly. So I mean, right now it's a different project, right? So after this, I split ways with the team, with some of the people of the team. Like we were like 10 people. Everyone like did something else after that, and it continued in a different manner now, but the idea I worked on before was basically exactly that, thinking about a local shop, Bitcoin shop, that combines education on Bitcoin in a transparent and professional way, but also accessible for everyday people who just pass by while they are shopping. So hence it made sense to have the location in the shopping mall, which was really great opportunity also from the shopping mall itself, which was, despite doubts, very open to this idea. Yeah.
I love that, because sometimes I feel like Bitcoiners are talking to Bitcoiners to Bitcoiners.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like this.
We're kind of entertaining each other, which there is some value to. Like you come into this as a Bitcoiner and you get educated, you like get deep into the rabbit hole. But the real value for Bitcoin is getting outside of Bitcoin. That's why I love getting on podcasts that are actually not about Bitcoin, but they're curious about Bitcoin, and then I can talk about Bitcoin. It's a whole different questions that I get there. But having that in a storefront, I love this, and I met you at that point. I think you just like started this on Twitter, and you're like, hey, who can help? And I was like, I have no experience in nothing, but I'm willing to help. And I think I started with the first 2 meetings, but I wasn't a substantial member of the team. But I really loved your journey there, and I was curious to catch up with you. Now it's almost like 4 years later. When was this?
No, man, no. That would be shocking. No, I think we did it in 2023.
Oh, then it's 3 years. 3 years.
2 years. Right. 2.5.
Oh, 2.5, yeah.
Something like this. Because it was in the early 23.
Oh, yes.
In February.
True,
it was a post, I think, was in around 1st or 2nd of February. And after the post, everything got viral, blah, blah, blah. 4 months later, we opened the store for 2 weeks. And yeah, and then.
So much has happened since then.
Exactly. It's really, and this is actually what I would love to share with you as well. Like, what did I do after it? I mean, because, I had this great chance to build something very impactful. I had the impression it was, for also the community to see Bitcoin represented in an unusual space for Bitcoin. And but then afterwards, I put so much time and money into this to make it work. And after this, I basically was very much broke and needed to work myself back up because didn't have any returns or something. And I stopped studying actually in that time and focused on being self-employed, doing a lot of social media and online marketing, and had a lot of learnings, a lot of feedback there. So that's a whole other story. But after, I think like in 2024, let's say around 1.5 years ago, I realized, man, I would like to combine this working environment and the studying again. So there I took the chance and started to finish my master's again because I was already inscribed. And this is actually something which I would love to talk about. The possibilities that the university actually gives me to write about Bitcoin the way I want, as long as I can justify it in a rational manner, right?
I love that.
So,
and the university, you proposed that you write about Bitcoin, and they were okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. So of course you need to find a supervisor for your master thesis, and that's if you have a topic and the topic doesn't fit the supervisor, he just won't accept you as a supervisee. And so that's the biggest challenge. And afterwards, you just need to wish yourself luck that you are aligned with your supervisor along the way. And I had a very competent one, I would say. He's, I think, very much professional philosopher, so academic in ethics. He knows a lot about ethics. He also gave several courses on the philosophy of money. And in the course of 2022, he also had a section on Bitcoin. So he could understand the topic quite well. At the same time, he wasn't really deep into this topic. So that's why I was lucky to have someone who understands it, basically, but at the same time still add value to his view on these things. And that's a thing.
I love that. How did you to what conclusion did you come? Philosophy, I think Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin it came to, and we talked about it before a little bit, where we often talk about what Bitcoin is and what the kind of technicians are and what is the mining process, but why is it from an ethical standpoint justified to mine Bitcoin? I love that angle of your work.
Yeah, so I wrote about the moral aspects of Bitcoin mining's energy consumption, and the basic answer to this, why is it justified, is I think it provides many moral values in our world, like freedom to transact, for example, but also financial emancipation, something like a word I like to use. It gives you responsibility and ownership on your money. So these are like moral values that can be used as a justification to have something like Bitcoin in our world, despite some costs, for example, energy or environmental costs. And that's the angle I took to justify it. But then you, in ethics and philosophy, you always need to, differentiate. And one thing is that you can also argue utilitarian-wise and just compare the costs towards the benefits. And I try to, and that's easy. You say on the one hand, if you have 51% of benefits and 49% of costs, then it should be justified. But then you can kind of also you look out for outputs. For example, utilitarians can say, as long as the result of a certain action is a benefit, I don't care about the way we have to, the means with no ends, this, Mittel zum Zweck, this topic. And there it's just tricky, because if you are a utilitarian, you can argue for many bad things because you say, well, the end goal is justified. So come with me and do something horrible on the way to the end goal. And I try to not do that with Bitcoin, and with my moral discussion. I try to justify Bitcoin in a deontological manner and say, what's the moral value of Bitcoin in itself? And are there maybe duties and responsibilities for us as human beings to say Bitcoin provides so much moral value that we have the duty to accept it with the downsides it has? I love
that a lot, because there's like two ways to build the biggest building in town. The first way is to build a quite high building and tear all the other buildings down that are higher than your building. And the second is just to build the highest building. And this is where like both have the same goal and both have the same endpoint. You have the highest building, but one is okay and one isn't okay. I mean, we can argue if building high buildings is a good thing or not, but that's a whole different discussion. And it's interesting when we think about, what do we want to achieve with freedom money, with sound money, with Bitcoin? And is that what the cost that we have for that justified or not? I think that's a point that we never really brought up in this podcast with like over 500 episodes, because we always talk about why Bitcoin is so great, what benefits Bitcoin brings, even disadvantages, even what could bring Bitcoin down in the end if there's something like that, but never, okay, if we come to a Bitcoin standard, what costs are associated with that? Because there are things that will change if we have a deflationary money, just from that standpoint. I think the benefits way outweigh the negative things, but there are negative things, and I think we should be aware of them and not neglect them, because otherwise we're just a sect and a religion that just cries everyone, screams everyone down.
Yeah, and there you really speak out of my heart, because like that's what I try to do constantly within myself, but also to the outside. It's always consider the critical problematic points of Bitcoin. I try to not blind myself with the success of the number go up. I try to ignore the number sometimes, to just focus on what's not working, what's problematic and stuff like this. And I think everyone who's intellectually honest we should talk about what's bad with Bitcoin and what's not working, what's risky. And I'm not an expert in, like, Bitcoin is a really big field, right? So if it goes into the physics of energy, for example, I'm not an expert. If it goes into the IT side of Bitcoin mining and core developers or whatever, it's hard for me. I try to keep up, but it's hard. But at the same time, I think conceptually, in the big picture, we can ask these critical questions of, where will Bitcoin be with energy consumption when more and more people will use it? And then we should consider a possible outcome where the energy consumption just goes up and up and up. And then you can say, well, you have the difficulty adjustment. There's some automatic regulation in the system. But I love, I love to go back to the first critical points that come to mind and then discuss them, because this is what makes us all learn these things all over again. And that's what people who are not spending their time with Bitcoin, that's where they are intellectually. They say, well, if more people use Bitcoin, the climate is going to be fucked and the nature is going to be destroyed, and we need the energy for more important things, stuff like this. These are the points where we need to address the people if we want to talk about Bitcoin with the ones who are not already convinced of the idea.
Yes, and there are some studies out there that are almost disappointing. We talked about that on a whole different podcast, I think like 100 podcasts ago, something like that, like a month or like 2 months, 3 months, I don't know, where we looked at studies that looked at Bitcoin, and we saw, and we kind of try and figure out what kind of was the flaw in there. And there's like one very popular study that gets quoted a lot in the mainstream media, and they made one single small mistake that has a huge impact. They didn't include difficulty adjustment.
Yeah.
So they just thought it's just an exponential growth, and difficulty adjustment just doesn't apply. where I'm like, okay, if you look at it from that point, of course, then we probably have, if difficulty adjustment wouldn't, like without difficulty adjustment, I think Bitcoin would be a failed project, probably makes it to the fifth year. Like difficulty adjustment is very, very important for the health of Bitcoin mining, but also for the overall ecosystem. And this is a thing where we have to educate. And on the one hand, we should not be too aggressive and like, oh, like Bitcoin is like good and never say anything bad about it, because everything has something bad. Like, there's no Jesus on earth. Like
exactly,
everything has some bad sides to it. But the question is like, how much does the good sides outweigh the bad things? So, and I love that kind of discussion where what are we doing with Bitcoin if it just continues to grow? And maybe for that, I'm curious, because you have been with Bitcoin beginning of 2023, and there's a lot happened the last years with institutional money coming in, with all those treasury companies coming in, and the Bitcoin ecosystem has grown a lot. I mean, now we have the American president saying that he likes Bitcoin. Like that would have been outrageous if you would have said on the Bitcoin blog, I think the next US president will talk positive about Bitcoin. People would have looked at you crazy.
Yeah, so I agree. I also reflected this fact that our president candidate at that time talked positively about it when I was writing my master thesis. So I included this reflection into it, which I kind of liked as a time document. But I think it basically it just shows the relevance. You can argue in which way. You can say, for example, Bitcoin that Donald Trump talks about Bitcoin shows how promising Bitcoin is as a reserve currency or something. But I would make it even simpler and say, well, we don't know. Like, I don't know that. I don't even know if Donald Trump understands Bitcoin. But what I know is that the Bitcoin is such a relevant topic for the voter demographics of a president that he spends money and time to talk about it. So I would say that's the baseline we can agree on why it has a relevance.
Yeah, this is the thing that like he wants to win votes. Like that's the job of a politician, to get elected and then execute the thing that he's elected for, which happens sometimes more, sometimes less. But it was interesting to see. Have you seen Donald Trump making that transaction in the New York City Bitcoin pub?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, of course he comes to the Bitcoin conference. Like it's a huge conference. There are like 30,000 people there. He can basically use it as a rally in his election cycle. So that's justified. But him spending the time and being in a small bar with like, I don't know, 50 people or 100 people that are maybe there, they make Bitcoin transactions. He could have been in many other places. And this only shows me one thing, and he just said it, how important in his mind Bitcoin already is. Mm-hmm. Otherwise he would not, like, why? He has many other things he can go through, especially in this election cycle. He probably has like 50 things per day where he can spend his time and make rallies and make votes and go from places to places. But like going to a Bitcoin bar for old, and in that time probably the new one, and now we actually know he's the elected one, president of the United States. That was huge for me. It was a little disappointing in the starting, what he did with the shitcoining and all those things. But
yeah, he did horrible things. and can I disagree with you on one detail?
No.
Please be only nice to me. So I would disagree that it shows how important Bitcoin is for him. I would to come back to the point. I would say it shows how important Bitcoin voters are, like voters which for them Bitcoin is a single voting issue, for example, but even those where it's just a component of why they vote for someone. So and that's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
And it also shows, I mean, Donald Trump, I don't know if I do something wrong or something, like if that blows back, but I just want to say it because he scammed people with his crypto coin. he said like we all gonna win until you're tired of winning, and then people invested, and it's like, you know, if as a Bitcoiner, if you criticize all the other cryptocurrencies as a scam, like that's the pinnacle of a scam. So now it's at 90% loss or something, more or less. Like you can look it up, but I think that's a horrible thing. That's just like the capitalization of his voters, and like he's benefiting for himself, and that has nothing to do with the whole topic of Bitcoin we talk about.
This thing like him as president being for Bitcoin and being more friendly to Bitcoin came with a cost of him scamming people.
Yeah. Now we have the moral questions again. Yeah.
Now the question for you: do you think it's justified to have a Bitcoin-friendly president, but he's scamming people? And
and that's a quite nice point, like example to make, because most people who don't study or spend time with philosophy, let's say, they don't know about this. And I think it's so important, like with this, we can illustrate it. So there are different ways to approach ethical questions. And here's what I love about it. With a utilitarian view, you could say the end, like Bitcoin adoption as a reserve currency or something, like broad, nationwide, all these things are so important, so big that it's okay. The costs of people being scammed is okay. This way, you justified it morally, but with a utilitarian approach. Your premise is utilitarian. There are meta ethics. So you talk about which kind of ethics is the best. You know, that's also another field in philosophy. And then you could also deontologically say, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin became a reserve currency right now. It's just it's immoral to scam people, no matter what. You just wonder, like, would you like to be scammed? You say, no, I wouldn't. And then you say, well, then it's not just, even though the outcome is justified. For example, even more generalized, I make you a promise. And I don't know, like I say, hey, Robin, I promise you when we go to the festival down there, we're gonna grab a nice drink, and I invite you for food. I promise you. And then, I don't know, like I realize, well, there's a buffet, you know, in the lounge or whatever, and it's much better. The food is much better there than to buy and invite you. And then I say, well, eat the buffet. Robin, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not gonna invite you for the drink and the food because there are much better stuff here. It's for free. And I could utilitarian would say, or the outcome focused person would say, it's a much better outcome. It's moral to do this. But what I did is I broke my promise, and a promise is by definition something you don't want to break. So that's immoral by itself. And the deontological view is you have the duty to keep your promise. Just as an example of how to think about these things, and this is what I also did in my master thesis, basically for the energy discussion. Yeah.
It's also, I was, before I started the podcast, extremely toxic and extremely hard against any altcoin. And I changed my view quite a bit, even though I still don't like any altcoin. But I'm saying it's a free market. If people start projects and other people buy it without being forced into it, like, it's fine with me. The free market, I think, will drive them all to zero. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I let them live. They can do whatever they want. The free market will rule. I focus on Bitcoin. And now with scams, it's interesting because then people are saying, "Oh, you should call out scammers." First of all, I think I make them stronger if I call them out on the podcast. But that besides, I'm not like what is a scam? Is like if we just talked before about Polkadot, and now it went down like crazy. They made promises, they made a great story, they had that vision. But in the end, they lost. And we have also companies that get started and then they get bankrupt. Was that a scam? Like, they tried it really good, and they maybe had good intentions. So not everything that loses money is.
But that's the point. It's the intentions. You need to look to the intentions. What's the intention behind it?
But how? I don't know. Like, for example, with Donald Trump, I don't know if he started the coin just to scam people. Like, I don't know if he sits in his office like, let's get money out of people. Like, I have no clue what his true intent. Like, nobody really knows outside of himself. But like, what then is really also with a crypto scam, and what is just a project that failed? Like, just from an ethical standpoint, that's like, for me, really hard to distinguish.
Yeah. So one approach there to analyze this is to ask, like, to judge the examples by their intentions. So, and in philosophy, you usually don't look at concrete examples where you say, are we able to find out whether or not this person had a bad or good intention? Because that's like, if you know it had a bad intention, it would be clear practically, empirically. You could say it's a scam. They tried to manipulate you into buying something and then rug pulled you. So that's the empirical analysis. But the philosophical analysis would be just, to more generally ask, if there is a good intention and it failed, then probably it's not a scam. And if there was a bad intention and it failed, it's a scam. Like, it's about the logic, the like higher level generalized statements you try to find, and that's the ethical challenge you try to do, and we can reflect on like other aspects to it than intention. Maybe there are also the intention might be good, but the way on achieving a certain goal of that intention is completely horrible. And you could say, well, if a president wanted to enrich his voters with a certain product or whatever, why make it this path of a crypto coin? Like, that might be immoral in itself, because it's the path is not moral, right? The intentions might be good, if you say so in this example, as a hypothesis, and the the intended outcome might be good, but the resulting wasn't good. But then you say, well, it's just the path isn't good. So that's why you can still judge it, for example. Yeah.
That's super interesting. It's for me fascinating to think about crypto projects outside of Bitcoin, and because I often, like, whenever I go outside of the Bitcoin bubble, like, inside of Bitcoin, nobody asks me about what I hold about cryptos and altcoins. But if I go outside, you always have the question that comes up of, oh, but what about other coins?
Yeah.
And on the one hand, you don't want to come across like a lunatic, which I think I am to some extent, and say like, oh, it's all a scam, like, because it's not. Like, people, like, they're projects that have pure intentions. I truly think that there are some altcoins out there where the founders really believe in that, even though if I believe that's crap, their intentions can still be true. And
that's another aspect, is like, what if a person believes it's good, but it's objectively not good, but the person believes it because it's just, in an illusion or something, that then you don't want, like, I think the intuition is you don't want to judge this person too much. That's why in court or something, if something happens by accident, that's what it is, an accident. You thought it's good, but it's not. You just happen to be in this mental state of believing it's good. If such an accident happens, you don't want to be taken accountable or responsible, or at least not in the same way as if you would be aware of it. Just, as another component to intention, it's like, are you believing to an illusion or not? How aware are you about the objective facts? Maybe you were tricked into something. Maybe you were brainwashed by a certain crypto project over the years to think it's the only way to solve, I don't know, data packages, sending data packages in an efficient way or something. I don't know,
There is this great book from Dale Carnegie, How to Win and Influence People, or something like that. But Dale Carnegie, I think most people know about him. And he brings that example in the book where he says even the worst people on earth, they truly believe they do something good, and they always had some justification. I have never done studies on like why people kill people or why people have mass murders and all those things, but he basically brought some examples up where really bad people, objectively bad people, you go on the street and 99.999% people agree with like that's a bad action.
Yeah.
They still had something. They really believed that they're doing it for the betterment of humanity. Where it's interesting, I'm like, oh, like even those people have really true, not intentions, but like they believe something is true that ultimately isn't. And we all believe like we're doing the better of mankind. I'm like, okay, then it gets really complicated if people that are scamming people or even like mass murdering people really think because they're delusional or they have some maybe even like legit brain injuries or brain damages, and they are hallucinating. Then it's like, yeah, it's still a scam. It's still bad. But like from their point of view, if you just see their point of view, you can even maybe have some empathy. Like he had some interesting intentions.
And the moral and legal challenge is how can you all bring this into an alignment that we go through all these situations in the world and then are able to kind of make judgment on these situations in a way that they are also in relation to each other justified. You want to punish the intentional mass murder, but not someone, I don't know, like a pilot who were forced to crash a plane.
Yeah.
So you want to judge on these examples and situations in a way that they are in themselves philosophically, morally, like justifiable, the judgment you make, but also in relation to each other. And that's a big challenge, and that's what I think society is talking about. It's like since the dawn of time. Yeah.
I want to make a very hard switch.
Let's do a hard switch. I'm all in for it. Yeah.
We talked previously about the American dream before we recorded, and you brought it up that you had an artist and a teacher as parent, and that money was something that you were well aware because it was not, you're not coming from an extremely rich family where you have a lot of money. How did first this influence you of coming from that background, and how you look at Bitcoin differently as maybe some do? Maybe Michael Seyr looks at Bitcoin where he came into Bitcoin with no money problem, or like different money problem, I guess. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I think I can only talk about myself here in the sense that I don't know how other people see it. Like subjectively, I don't know how you see it. We can talk about it like just as but what I can definitely see and observe is how hard it was for me to just get a mental image, like a grasp of what it means to invest, what it means to just like this. What does it mean to invest? How does it work? Where do I do it? All these simple, very basic questions. I didn't know anything about it. That's the influence I realized from like my today's view back then. Now I know how to do it. I know how to open a broker's account. How to transact money, how to analyze charts, whatever. But back then it was really like I just knew investing exists. And that's it. I didn't know where it was. Where should I, like my father had a Coca-Cola stock, he told me. When I was a child, he bought one for me. But then the stock was gone. Like I don't know where it was a piece of paper and I didn't know where it was. And then at some point he said, yeah, I think your mom sold it. Or like, I don't know, like something like this. It was like, I couldn't touch it. I had no touching points to this topic. So this was the biggest point in this, my life story is like, to get from 0 to 1 in a way, and from then on, I would say it's all the same. Like it just takes much longer to get started, and from there, I think you can start to compare the people who are already investing, then you can kind of see them as one group of people in a way. But that's the main difference. I talked to a guy in the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam in 2022, and this was crazy because he was much younger than me. I think he was 21 years old, and he started to buy Bitcoin miners or graphic cards actually from NVIDIA and stuff in 2017. When he was 15 years old, he just bought graphic cards and sold them. Just to think about the idea that you can not only buy one graphic card and sell them for a profit, but actually get into the risk to buy 20, 100 graphic cards and sell them for much higher, like scaling, this concept unheard of in my family. So I think these are examples for how hard it was for me to just think about how to do stuff like this and how to make a business. My father was a great artist, but he wasn't a great businessman. So that's the difference I observe right now. So that also you started much earlier. You said with 17 you started to look into stocks. I mean, I tried it. I watched a movie about it, but I didn't know where to go.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from CoinVigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing CoinVigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. And we have right now a summer sale going on for 15% off. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today for $186, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need.
I was just lucky to find the right people. I don't follow them anymore, but the right people to influence me to think about money with 17. It was weird. We talked about it before because I really thought about the first time, like there was nobody in my family that invested in stocks. Like my father had ETFs and funds, nothing like that. anything just like that, and no individual stocks. I was the first in my family.
But it's much more than, that's already a step much further than where I come from. I mean, my father had an individual stock, but the way was so different. It wasn't like when I was a teenager, like, there was a thing from when I was a baby, this Coca-Cola thing. But then in the whole time where I grew up, where I learned things, it was not a topic. He didn't engage with it. He didn't had anything anymore. So...
Yeah, and my dad was also an entrepreneur. He had his own company. So I guess like owning companies and having the concept around, like even as a small kid, it's fascinating how living in a different world, it changes your mindset so early on. And it's not the actual capital that you get from your parents, which I never got, but the human capital, like people skills, the seeing, hey, he has a company, so he can own a part of that. Like, how crazy is that? Yeah. I just talked about before, like, it's a very new project. It's right now, actually, I'm starting, when we're recording, like right now, it's not even started, but I think if when it launches, it will be already, the paperwork will be already done. I own now a small company in America as a small part of it. And this is something where I'm like, oh shit, how do I do that? Like, how can an Austrian guy own like an American stock? And like, how do I do with taxes? Do I have to like file taxes in America also now? How
can you even own a company or a part of it? Like that's for me even a big question. Like I had touching points with this topic, but it's like such a brain fuck for me. Like it's such a stretch. I need to really like move my brain around it, and also the consequences. What does it mean if you have it? What are the responsibilities? All these things are so confusing. So it just takes time, of course, but that's the examples. If you grow up with it, if your father talks about it much more on the kitchen table, that you have such a head start on everyone else. And what I got at the kitchen table was intellectual stuff and culture and art and history, which is also great when I look at it now. But
I'm lagging that a lot.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. So it's yeah, exactly. Like everyone knows something else, and it's okay. I would say in the end, you just need to live with it. Be aware of it. Don't judge yourself if like I don't judge myself that it took so much time anymore. I used to, but this is like the bottom line of what I try to say is I don't want to judge myself because I just had a different head start than other people. Yeah.
I also wanted to get to this topic because there's a lot of belief outside of, like, most people that watch this podcast don't have this belief anymore, but there's in the general population there's big belief that you can just work really hard, like go to university, work really hard and put your 40 hours in and like buy some real estate. Maybe that's already very good, but like it's like if you have some kind of thing, you will be really good.
Yeah.
But most people don't realize, like they have done a 30-year loan. They're completely bound to this one credit line that they have to work for 30 years. And then they have these calculations like, oh, how can I get there? How can I get there? And we made that previously. If you just earn a normal average salary, or maybe even on the higher scale salary, it's really hard, almost impossible with just saving in a fiat currency to generate any kind of fiat wealth, any kind of like, FU money.
Yeah.
Where you are forced to invest. And this is the interesting ethical part that I also want to get to, where now the new American dream is kind of like, you pick your stocks, you pick your Bitcoin, you pick your things you want to invest in, and most people don't have the time to even do that.
Yeah, not even that, right? I mean, exactly. It's I think the time investment for investing in stocks in relation to the potential reward you can get is so little compared to the work you need to put in to get this potential reward with just work. That's what you said. And yeah, I mean, we talked about I think like American dream. I think in Germany we got very much influenced after the Second World War by American culture. So that's what we all grew up with, is some version of that's really cool. Except your parents were already opposed to that, then maybe it was different. But Yeah, so I would agree that the main idea, the bottom line, the headline of all of this is work hard and get rich by doing so, but it's not working anymore. The simple answer is due to inflation, right? And probably there are more complex answers to why it is, but the bottom line, we don't have the purchasing power anymore. And how do you outperform that? And that's like really frustrating to see that so many people who are not just sticking to the fiat currency and don't think about diversification in investments or investing at all, how they are stuck in that. And you know, me as a student, I was able to save a little bit of money. I didn't put all my money in. I put so little of my money into Bitcoin really early on, because I was also very risk aware. I mean, I was like, maximum 50 euros or something, which was like, I had 500 on my bank account or 600. I could do 200 or 300, but I did 50. It's still 10%. So investment wise, percentage wise, it's a lot. But anyway, you get my point. Practically, it was not a lot of money. And this was already enough to see some growth over the years and be like in a little way rewarded by it. And
it gives you hope.
And that's, yeah. It's really weird. I don't go out there and say Bitcoin gives me hope. But if you would ask me, does it give you hope? I would tend to agree to this, because that's like kind of the feeling. If I think about the future, I'm like, potentially, I don't know, but potentially what I saved in Bitcoin is not gonna become less, but more. Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
I hope she's okay when I say that, but I talked with my girlfriend and she just started working 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm. And the flies are so annoying.
Yeah,
it's just one fly. It's just one fly.
There's just this like one.
Yeah.
It's also in the podcast. For the people that just listen, we have a fly
flying around,
switching between Marcel and me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was talking with her, and she's just started now saving, and she's now saving every month a little bit into Bitcoin, and she's just seeing as like, what? How much money do I have? Like, like how many months could I live from that? And it really gave her security and the stability of like, okay, because every month a little bit of my salary goes to my Bitcoin account, and from that I could potentially live whatever, like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, and I'm still fine. And this is the thing that I mean with hope. I usually don't say this hope thing in front of new people, but because then they think that
it's
really
so weird.
Crazy,
yeah, it's so weird. Like, how can money give you hope? In a way, you could ask, right? Or how can this magical internet money give you hope? No, but anyway, yeah.
And this is what I always say with like Bitcoin gives people hope, because all of a sudden you're like, I can save, and all of a sudden I have more possibilities. And I bring out this one story. I quit my job last year in February. So March last year I started this whole new journey of just being a podcaster. And I was like, what, I can make a living out of that? Like, that's weird. And I only did it. I only had the courage to do that because I was like, I have some Bitcoin savings and I can live some months from that. So if I don't earn anything, I'm not exactly on the street tomorrow. I can live a few months off my savings and I'm still fine.
But this would be possible with fiat as well, right?
It would be possible with anything.
So what's the added value of Bitcoin then in this example?
For me, in this example, is without Bitcoin and without Tesla stock, those are the two things. This buffer would be a lot smaller.
Okay.
So if I would have just saved same thing retrospectively in fiat, and I had two big jumps financially in my life. The first one was Tesla. I was a huge Tesla, not a huge Tesla investor, but I was a huge fan of Tesla and was an investor. Yeah. For the greater scheme of things, I was a very small fish. And this was the first like, oh shit, fuck, that just goes up, and like, I have now like I made, I said it before, 1,200%, so like a 13x from my initial investment.
Yeah.
It was not a lot, but a 13x makes
crazy,
a smaller already something. And then Bitcoin, then after Tesla went all in Bitcoin, I always went all in the things. It was even before Bitcoin, I went all in Tesla. So I was always a lunatic. That's why I say that way.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have that stack. And that's what's the difference is. You can also do it with euros, but I would have had maybe 1/20th of the value, which then really makes the buffer and the security and this hope a lot smaller. And you can achieve the same thing with founding companies, with investing in Tesla, with all those things. I personally think for most people, Bitcoin will be long-term, not now, long-term, the best option. Because now most people are scared away from it because of the volatility and like it's early. And
the volatility that goes down on, the volatility charts.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's fascinating because
the overall volatility goes down. Yeah.
Yeah, the overall one. Like, you had maybe 80% volatility, something like this, and then it's now go down to 2015, like 15% of volatility. It's just like the volatility goes down. Like the price action in the short run is less and less and less. So it's getting more stable. If you want to. Bitcoin is becoming more stable. Bitcoin is becoming less volatile.
It just grows up as an asset because now there's like BlackRock, there are big companies involved, and they are not as, how should I say it, they are not as reactive to price actions. If all there is in Bitcoin is retail, and the Bitcoin price goes up like crazy and goes down like crazy, you have those big swings because there's a fear of missing out, then there's panic selling and all those things.
Yeah.
But strategy is not panic buying or panic selling. BlackRock is not doing that. Like the big companies, they're just like, oh, we have a strategy and we're executing that strategy. And it actually takes a long time. George Boudin made this amazing comparison on a podcast just a few episodes ago, where we went from a jet ski to an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And when Bitcoin had this 80% swings, 90% swings, we were a jet ski. We were like we're jumping around.
A wave really pushed you around.
One wave pushes you around like crazy. In an aircraft carrier, that's like there has to be a huge wave to move the aircraft carrier, even like a little bit.
Exactly.
So people are even sometimes a little bit disappointed with Bitcoin this cycle because it doesn't go up like crazy. It's like more stable going up. Like we have a 12-month performance of over 70%, and people are like, why is it not going up like 70% in 1 year? That's fucking crazy. That's really good performance.
Yeah. But also the performance is going down with Bitcoin over the years. If you look at the charts, which I find interesting, the logarithmic chart, for example, it just goes down. So you had, I don't know which cycle was exactly, but it's in my mind is the 1,200% in a bull cycle. Then you had, I think, how much was it, like 500 to 600%, and now it looks like we're more in the 300% range maximum. And it's also something that's going down like this. The volatility goes down, but also the potential benefits and rewards. And what I wanted to add to the whole point of, like fiat bashing, there are good times to have fiat. It's when prices crash and markets crash. So after the .com bubble, it would be great to not be the one who follows the crowd and have some cash to invest. After the real estate bubble, the same. So and those things took 4 to 6 years, let's say 6 years at the real estate bubble to come back up to the prices before the crash. So that's these things are real opportunity costs if you go all in. That's why you shouldn't go all in. That's why you should always,
not like me.
Yeah, you did something wrong there, Robin. But well, it's just like I just wanna I don't want people to go all in with anything. Like sometimes if you're young and whatever, you can do it. But what's all in for a 19-year-old? It's something you earn in a month later on. These kind of things. So just as a general thing, I observe, and this is why I also like to not be 100% allocated in Bitcoin person, because you never know when a crash is coming. Can also happen to Bitcoin, and then
It happens a lot to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Sure.
but I mean like more, like not the 20% are already like are normal in a way for me, but I mean
It's
like
boring.
yeah, what if Bitcoin reaches 60 to 70, like let's say 70k is a potential, 70 to 80k is a potential pullback area. I don't know if it's happening or when, but if it's happening, I would like to buy some Bitcoin then, and substantially more than I would do now. That's just the point I want to make, and that's why you shouldn't go all in. Yeah.
There's I just had with James Check, I think it's 2 episodes ago, and he is on-chain analysis, and he always has those great charts where he says like now there's like a time where there's euphoria and there's a lot of people of buying in, and there's a lot of indicators that's actually kind of a top, and then there's indicators that's kind of like, oh yeah, like we are kind of sold out, like people are sick of selling, and then they start buying again. There's a lot of those things, and then there's also like power law, stock to flow model. Like there's like Seyr has his own model. Like all those people have their own models.
Seyr has the 21 everywhere model. Let's write 21 at every chart. No, anyway.
How did you like that 21 model?
How I liked it?
Yeah.
I find it numerological and esoteric. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. It really. I was thinking, how long was he sitting there? Because he came up with this 13 million in 2045, 44, something like that, and now this 21 million in 21 years. And then in 21 years, it's growing at 21%.
Yeah.
And up until like the next 21 years, he goes from a CAGR. So like every year is 28 point something percent, like 29%, something like that. I don't have the numbers all in my head, but like something like that. And this is, what was the point I was trying to make? That there's all those different people with all those different models, and before we said we don't talk about moon math, but now we do.
Oh yeah.
But I think that was the point I was trying to make. For most people that just want to work and save in something, and I think that are most people. Most people don't want to trade in stocks. They don't want to go in and out in something. They just want to have money that increases in value over time. Like that's the basic thing that people. I also, in my situation right now, I just want to have that. I work on the podcast a lot. I work with Bitcoin companies a lot, trying to spread the message. And for me, it's a natural fit because like Bitcoin makes sense. But even if they do the same thing as a doctor, and I just like am 70 hours like operating people, saving people's life, I don't want to come home after 12-hour shift and go on the computer and research which stock to buy and like how to trade. I think most people just want to save their financial energy into something reliable over time.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that my strategy is not the most, not the most rewarding one. Like I could potentially borrow against my Bitcoin. I could do financial engineering. I could buy strategy which outperform Bitcoin. I even had Mac Hanna on a few episodes ago, where he is using options of strategy, Strike, Strive, and a third one. Stride, yes.
With E, I think.
I think that's the one I always forget. And he placed those options, and he has an investment of 500,000 in them, and makes 5K per week with option trading. And he explained kind of how he does it, and I'm like, yeah, I can also do that, but then I do all day long this, and I don't want to do that. Like, I want to build something, and building takes a long freaking time. So I don't have the time to actually research money and research what kind of stocks to trade and what I can do with my Bitcoin and borrowing against them. So I just buy and sell. If I need fiat, I sell Bitcoin. If I have fiat and want to have more Bitcoin, I buy Bitcoin. Like, it's pretty straightforward. And I'm aware it's not the best strategy, but it's one that works for me, and I kind of like it.
I find it fascinating how you live and manage your life. It's really cool to see because I think it's brave and in a way, probably, as far as I can see it, more rewarding than not doing it. But at the same time, I mean, it's very unusual, the style you choose.
It's mentally rewarding.
Yeah.
Like it's very easy.
I mean, in small scale, I had it with my business, basically with my self-employed business, where I accepted also some payments in Bitcoin, and then I forgot about them because they're, not on my normal bank account. So I forgot about this money, and I remember how I was like, shit, the Bitcoin price is so high. Why did I do it? It's too late anyways. It's not worth it. Maybe I should sell it. Like some weird thoughts I had. And then months later, I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I just, almost doubled it. And then it was really, for the first time in my life, I had the impression my work had some monetary fruits, like it's like planting a seed and then getting a plant out of it with some fruits on it. This was the feeling, and which was more shocking is that I don't have this feeling with normal payments, because the money comes in and then usually even the savings are not so, like, they lose purchasing power, and I feel it. So this contrast was very, very telling about our time in which we live in concerning the fiat currency and inflation problem we have, mainly the inflation and purchasing power problem. So yeah, these are the cool aspects to this whole thing, I think. These are the fruits we can, how do you say, ripe? Or the fruits we can ripe? No.
The fruits we can earn.
Yeah.
Let's say it like that.
Oh man, yeah. English and so on.
Two Vienna people that speak German are in Salzburg at a festival speaking English.
I hope it's forgiven, our English quality, or my English quality. It's a bit rusty.
I have sometimes people actually, like very rarely, people say to me that they don't understand me. It's like very rarely.
Oh, really?
It happens now almost never, but in the beginning, and my English improved, of course, because
definitely.
I speak a lot now.
Yeah.
English, almost only in English.
I remember one time visiting you and you wanted to talk English with me, and I'm like, Robin, no need for that. Like you were so used to talk English. Yeah.
Because my girlfriend is English and my work is English, so everything is English. We have one question that I ask each and every one of my guests, and the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Wow, big one. Besides Bitcoin. Yeah, now like, that's such a broad question, Robin.
I love that one. There's always, with 98% of the guests, they always stop and think with that question.
Yeah, I don't want to rush it. I don't want to, jump to a weird conclusion.
And I love that, because we have, it's so funny, if you only interview Bitcoiners and you talk with them 1 hour, 1.5 hours about Bitcoin, and you ask them and they're like instantly and like they have something, and then you ask them, oh, what outside of Bitcoin are you doing? What can we learn from you? What have you studied about something else outside of Bitcoin? They're like, me too. Like I because my whole world is living around Bitcoin, and the only thing I'm doing outside of it is trying to make this podcast work, trying to make Bitcoin companies grow, and like figuring out how to do marketing and shit.
Yeah.
I totally get it, and most people are like that.
I mean, thanks for the filler. I had time to think now. So I wanted to say something about taking risks and stuff, but then I was like, yeah, well, that's boring. We talked about it the whole podcast show, so it's obvious. But I think outside of this whole financial thing is more on the relationship side, and the biggest learning in the last years for me is it's worth to stay in touch with the people you have relationships with. Let it be friendships, not just your girlfriend or some partner, but to go through conflicts by being in touch. And, staying in contact. We say, like, I think it's a German expression, staying in Kontakt bleiben, being in contact, but like staying in touch in a way of realizing who are you and who's the other person, where's your boundaries end, and when does the boundary of the other person starts, what are your needs, what the other person needs. So the duality of yourself and the other, like realizing how important that is in life for healthy relationships and also for a healthy relationship to yourself. Because now I think I can wrap it up by saying, if you don't have that, we tend to either be too egoistic and narcissistic by just looking at ourselves. Then you don't have boundaries in a way, or you don't respect them. Let's say it more like this. You take too much space. The other doesn't exist. So there's no touching point anymore. And if the other way around, if you just immerse yourself too much in another person and lose yourself completely, there are also no boundaries. This might feel very good in the beginning, in a way of like, jumping into like intimacy where you're like all in the clouds, but then where's the ground? Where are your roots? And the summary is basically always be aware there's always a boundary between you and the other, and it's something beautiful and useful for healthy relationships. That's something I kind of carry with me. Yeah.
And it's very humbling to live with other people and to be around other people, because if you're alone, you can run around naked in the apartment, you can do things exactly according to you, you can put the dishwasher, turning them on whenever you want.
Or not turning it on.
Not turning it on, leave the dirty dishes outside. And once you live with someone else, no matter if it's a romantic relationship or like having roommates or like whatever the situation is, it's humbling, because now it's not just about you. It's you have to put your ego behind the relationship, because that's the thing that you have to nurture at that point. I love that. I think that's a great other thing that we can bring up. Because I asked that question because of a very specific reason. I personally think Bitcoin will be very boring at some point.
Oh yeah, I bet I so much 100%. I'm so much on your side on this. Yeah.
Bitcoin will be at some point just like a savings tool. Like everyone has something in Bitcoin. They have all like grandma will say, "Oh, save this in Bitcoin." Like,
maybe yeah.
it will be that weird savings tool that everyone kind of agrees that you should have some savings in there, and which will take a long time till we get there. Just so you know. But it is coming, that thing. And so I think Bitcoin will be extremely boring. And that phase that we're now in, that we have like a lot of Bitcoin podcasts, even though I still think we don't have enough, this will become less and less interesting. The same way, like in the 1980s and 90s would have been interesting to have a TCP/IP protocol podcast where we talk about all the new things that are happening, because it was actually interesting at that point. Now talking like about the TCP/IP protocol, like what the heck is that even? Like why do we need to talk about that? Like,
I think it's important because it's very slow and needs an update. But besides that, I agree.
That's true, but nobody wants to hear that.
Exactly, it's too complicated, right?
It's too technical. It's too boring. We have one question from the end routine of the podcast is always where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asks you, and he comes from the institutional side, if you think institutional adoption is a good thing or bad thing, and if there is something like a bad adoption for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. All right. And can you specify institutional? Because we use this word the whole time, but then it's like...
I don't know how he would specify it, but I can specify it for you.
Yeah.
I personally think institutional adoption is everything from an entity. So there's individuals and there's entities. And if I buy Bitcoin, it's not institutional. I'm just me. But if Michael Seyr buys with strategy Bitcoin, that's not him buying, that's strategy buying, that's an institutional buying.
But the size doesn't matter if it's a small...
if it's like a one-person company, maybe it's retail. But I feel like it's very gray lines where you draw the line. But if you have a company that is... have more than one person, I guess you can make it that way. Yeah.
Sure. So I think it shows some legitimacy to this whole space, and I think that's good. I can kind of like go to skeptical friends and other investors and say, look, these big companies or institutions bought Bitcoin as a reserve, so that's really nice, and shows how much trust they have in that. I don't like it if we enter a new territory of bubble, of a new bubble in the stock market with these treasury companies. Just crazy volatility there, and right now it looks good, but you don't know how long this is successful. And there, my only worry would be, again, like people hoping for too much and then getting massive losses in their investments instead of just saving in Bitcoin. And that's the bad thing about it. And what was the second, like the last?
If there's something like a bad adoption, so like the theory behind that is like, is every adoption good for Bitcoin? And this was interesting, just to give you, you're probably aware of that. Satoshi in the early days was cautious with bringing Bitcoin actually down a little when saying like, hey, don't scream that out too quickly. Maybe we piss someone off and maybe this whole thing gets shut down. Yeah,
because it was too fragile, the system back then, and it was easy to, with a lot of money, to make the system like to get control over it. And now it's getting harder. And I think that structurally I would have the same doubt and fear about adoption right now, is if there's a loophole to somehow get centralized power in the Bitcoins into Bitcoin. But I haven't thought through it yet, because there's always the hope of having a second, like a parallel Bitcoin thing, which is like where I trade with you the small Bitcoins that are not owned by the institutions or whatever. Yeah, but I think we're running out of time.
Yes, we're running out of time. I already got the point of like, hey, we need other people in the container.
Exactly. let's not let them wait.
Then thank you so much, Marcel, for being on the podcast.
Totally.
Just one last question: where can people find you in the internet and reach out to you?
I think the best for your audience is on X. You can just Google me on X. Is that how it works? So Marcel Ohrenschall. Maybe you can link me.
I put it in the description, and
exactly.
then people can go there.
I think that's the best way. On Instagram, I started to do some videos also for the broader non-Bitcoin audience about Bitcoin, and yeah, that's how you can find me.
And thank you so much, Marcel, for your time, and also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.